Okay, good job, guys. Okay, James' turn. Fast healing. All right. Everyone within 30 feet roll a will save against his gaze attack unless you're averting your eyes. You ever wondered why some GMs don't like running high level campaigns? I'm GM Coblin, and I'm here to tell you why and possibly give you a few tips to get your GM to feel more comfortable doing so. If
A few moments later.
Okay, I think that's it. Now for the other 12 monsters. Now, if any of you have played into your teens or to level 20 or above, and especially if you've played a caster, I think you know where I'm going to go with this. You as a player have your character, maybe your characters on rare occasions, you have pets or companions, eidolons. You understand that as you increase in level, your options become more. Your variables, your abilities become greater. That's the reason we like leveling. And I love higher level play. It doesn't bother me when I take my guys in Pathfinder from level 1 to level 20. But as a GM, we run not just one character, but we keep track of everyone, make sure everyone's following the same rules and keeping up with everyone and how they are progressing through their leveling, because sometimes our players mess up either with some numbers or they misinterpreted a rule or something. You have to narrate the field, you have to try to carry the story, all while dealing with legendary actions, lots of free actions, dozens of spells on their list, and not only consider the morale of the NPC, but the story scenario. It can be a daunting task. Level 20 combat can also take a long time. My longest fight in Pathfinder, the culmination to a campaign with 4 characters being level 20, took over 3 hours for one fight. There were some reasons, but for one fight. So many people never get to play at this level. If you do, remember to be kind to your GM, as this level of play puts a lot on their plates. Trying to remember the different monsters, abilities, I find it sometimes I have to really look at the monsters when it's early in the morning to make sure that I remember correctly how to play them. With preparation, it's not just your friend, but as you advance in levels, it's a requirement. Your party is going to turn into complete beasts. They can bypass anything with magic. No one ever stays dead. You have to put in a lot of effort to balance encounters, which gets harder as your players level. And let's be honest, really just fixing the encounters for your party, because I'm not sure that balancing is ever correct, especially if you're just using the CR system. But don't worry, I've got a few tips that I use and you can use in your high level games to make it easier on you as a GM. Now, a tip to make your life easier when running a high level dungeon is keeping it to a theme. It can greatly help you out. If there's a theme to your dungeon, the same or very similar monsters help keeping their abilities fresh in your mind, and it'll help speed up combat, which is one of the big things that bog us down. I mean, it's kind of the same advice that we go by whenever you have lower levels. It's just amplified that much more. You have so much more for that NPC. And I know we like to spice things up. I love to give my players all of these odd monsters and, throw them different things, keep them on their toes. But sometimes it's just better to stick to the theme and use a narrative of the story that leads up to the dungeon to keep them unsure about what's ahead of them. It throws them an oddball. So maybe they're thinking it's one thing and maybe the dungeon is a little bit different. This way, they can't plan too heavily and thwart everything easily. Another thing you can do is to tone down the mobs with the complex build. Now, sometimes you may need to reskin lower CR monsters, or I like to advance them. And if you're running a swath of monsters, I like to keep 1 or 2 being the casters or the complex ones out of the group. It makes it easier, not just with the number or types of actions that you're going to encounter, but just having a melee bruiser that throws a rock or has a few attacks, even though feats are going to expand on this. it can still give your party a threat, and they can provide cover for those complex or caster baddies in the background that add a little more oomph or diversity to your encounter. And using smaller minions is great for helping the party, one, feel powerful. If you have a wizard that finally gets to cast Fireball, well, give them a whole bunch of minions or low level mobs. Yeah, they may be overpowered for them, but if they've fought these before, higher level NPCs are going to have probably henchmen of some kind. And it's going to make them feel good to finally, one, use those damage spells if they don't normally get to, and two, to be able to knock out a bunch of enemies. Plus, the small minions still provide a hindrance, and they allow you to block the party to allow your bombs in the backs to still do their thing. Also, limit the spells they have. That's another big tip. I don't always do this, but I figure having dispelling, control, single target spell, and AoE is pretty good. Most encounters don't last that long. You know this, I know this. You can divide this up and have a set, or use the last tip instead with advancing monsters and do it instead with your main spellcasting list. Keep a list of your favorite spells by levels and type so you have an easy reference list that comfortable with and you add on to as you go. Maybe add a different spell as they're going up because it's going to change because of the theme of the dungeon or the encounter. Or maybe they've started preparing too much for, say, one type of spell, so you rotate to something else. Now, with my group, this gets to where they know what you're going to do, and so I have to change things up a bit. I also find that I change up spells in modules a lot because more often than not, I'm not too happy with the kinds of spells that they load up. Or maybe I just like being cruel to my party. But sometimes they might have one good spell on that wizard's spell list, but a lot of them, they're just not very practical, either against most PCs for the level that they're going to have in that encounter, or they don't do anything really. Also, I wanted to say that I polymorphed one of my players into a goat last session. It has nothing to do with the video. I just thought it was amusing. But to go along with that, though you may not want to TPK your party at high levels, previously mentioned with all the abilities they have, don't feel bad about forcing them to make those saves or make better decisions. Drop them below negative HP. Turn them to stone. Blind them. Send them to another plane of existence and force the party to have a side adventure to go get their barbarian friend. Come to think of it, I've done all those things to my party multiple times. I'm sorry, wife. Point is that they have access to so much power. It's hard for us to keep that power balance, or attempt to keep that power balance, as it is in our encounters. The things are expected, and not just for the BBEG. Now, every caster holding a ready finger of death, waiting on the party with, surprisingly, all low con saves might be a little bit much. But sometimes I like to make the healer dust off their healer's kit. Also, with most casters keeping a teleport in their back pocket, making them run, not just out of resources, but for their lives, because they pulled the entire dungeon because they don't know what stealth is. You know who you are, is still on the table, even at high levels. Most of us want to get to high level or epic play. Maybe even hop into a single fight or a short adventure, a one shot with a high level character build that we've made. Maybe you want to feel the power of a build without having to go through those pesky, stale lower levels. To get our hands on those spells that shape the world and alter the cosmos, as we advance to those final levels, reaching for that power that we normally only dream of, and then to have the campaign fall apart and that power just fall from our grasp and start over again. Whatever the reason, whatever the addition, unless you just say, I swing my sword, and even then, I guarantee, at higher levels, there's going to be more complexity to it. More things that you're going to have to remember. Use in a given situation, and it's going to slow things down. But I find the trade-off. Time sink is the feel of the accomplishment, what we've made. Power you get to wield. And sometimes the cosmic stories that you get to weave. Just remember, with everything... We're going to redo that. Just remember, with everything we have to grasp Saturday mornings with our characters, the GM has to do that as well. For every NPC that you run into. You can convince your forever GM to give it a try. Remember to stop time. Make a wish. And get ready for some disjunctions. Enjoy your high-level play. If you like this video, check out my others. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. If you have any tips or requests, drop them in the comments below. And until next time, may your crits be epic, your adventures legendary, and your gaming table filled with laughter.